Good morning. I'm Bill Weiss and the host of the Dairy Nutrition BlackBelt Podcast. My guest today is Abbigail Prins. She's a graduate student at the University of Minnesota working on her PhD with Dr. Endres. She's been there about a year and a half. Abby, welcome to the Black Belt.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start with just kind of a broad overview of what your PhD work is on?
Sure. So right now, the main premise of my degree and my research is looking at how can we better manage our cows, especially here in the Midwest, using precision technology. And most of my research is using robotic milking systems. So we're using data sensors, we're using all of the data collected from the robot, and then trying to better manage cows using all of that data.
Why don't we start with what's your definition of precision technology for those of us that not into this area very much?
So anything regarding precision technology, I feel like, at least for me, is just a massive amount of data being collected and being able to monitor how the animal is performing, I guess, with regards to dairy. So precision technology in dairy would be monitoring health, monitoring milk production, components, and just how the overall cow is doing throughout her lactation, and then using that to make day-to-day decisions.
Okay, so it's more or less trying to manage individual cows in a group type situation.
I believe so, yeah.
Trying to get individual data from a group situation.
Yes.
With robots, what are the major types of data you collect or you should be collecting, I should ask?
So I guess that's the beauty of the robot. You can collect pretty much any kind of data you want. You can collect on the individual cow, you can collect her milk production, her components, her conductivity, her productivity. You can look at some robotic milking systems now have somatic cell counters. So you can get an average somatic cell count for that day for each cow. And then all of that data can be compiled into the pen or the group or even the herd as a whole. So that is a huge advantage of robotic technology, of being able to take all this individual data and compile it together to see what your overall herd is doing. But some other systems, you can calculate weight based off of the animal to see how her weight is changing through her lactation. And I believe that they are working on technology right now to do a pregnancy test based off of the milk. So I think that'll be coming in the next few years.
It seems like, you could get millions of data points.
Oh,
here.
Yes. Oh,
so
absolutely.
How can a farmer or manager manage all that data? Or is there key data points you'd look at more than other ones, or is there ways to manage this data?
So I think it really comes down to what the goals of the producer are. If they're really interested in fertility or milk production, they really want to emphasize components, then those would be the key factors that you would be looking at, or reducing mastitis incidences, or if you have cows that are not producing as much milk as much as they should, then you can get a red flag of, hey, this cow could potentially be sick. We should go check on her. And so I guess that is, the downfall of having this precision technology, that there's so many data points that I think if you take a couple of your goals and being able to highlight those and then pull that information from the robot, that you can really maximize what those goals are to achieve them.
Is that kind of what you're working on, is to identify metrics for different goals, or what could you be a little more precise on what you are looking at in your project?
Yeah, so with my project specifically, I am looking at milking visit patterns, and if there are certain times of the day that cows are visiting the robot more frequently, and then to be able to take all of that data together and then find the less frequent times to be able to go in to do chores like scraping the manure out of the alleys or cleaning stalls. Also, there's 2 times during the day that the robot needs to be cleaned, and so it can't be used. So being able to find those times where the cows are visiting the most often and visiting the least often, to be able to better manage how and when we do chores is what my project is looking at.
Are you finding times where there are frequent or infrequent visits? Is there?
Actually, yes. So I have, I think, 1.5 million data points in one of my data sets, which is quite a bit. And there are definitely peak times throughout the day that these cows are visiting, which is awesome to be able to find this really cool rhythm. And I'm trying to break it down by month now to see if that changes throughout the season. I'm also looking at variables like parity and stage of lactation, because cows in early lactation will be visiting the robot more frequently, as opposed to those in later lactation, they'll be visiting less frequently. And then trying to see if first lactation cows or second and greater parity have different rhythms. So that's kind of where I'm at with my data analysis to see if there's any differences amongst those variables.
When I was getting my PhD, I thought 100 data points was a lot, so I had trouble with those.
Yeah, it's a lot of data to comb through.
It's huge. And I'm assuming there's statistical or computer programs that can sort or manage a lot of this data, because it's just not humanly possible.
Exactly, yeah.
And would those types of programs be available for producers or built into these robot systems, or how can they, because they're going to be getting the same 1 million data points or so.
Right. I think it's not as feasible for a producer to go through and comb through all of those data points, just because there's so many and they have other things to do throughout the day. I think this is more so on the academia or the university side, where like all of my statistical analyses are being done in R, and then we're putting all of that together and then to produce that into some kind of journal article. And then for producers to see that this is what we have come up with one study. But I'm not entirely sure how to make that a little bit more feasible for producers, but that would be nice to find something for them to be able to use.
Good.
Abbigail, a global leader in nutritional solutions and the provider of SmartAmine M. Visit milkpay.com to calculate your return on investment when you balance your feed with amino acids, and to learn how SmartAmine M is the product for dairy producers who want to optimize milk production, component levels, and the lifetime performance of their herds.
Again, that to me would be, with all this data, would be paramount, is to find out ways to either identify key data points or how to sort through it to identify problems or something else.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you. It's been interesting. Like I said, it's a lot of data.
Yes.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.